Hi, everyone. I'm Carli.
And I'm Sophia.
And this is Away She Goes, a podcast from girls who travel.
Each episode will help you feed your wanderlust with travel tips, stories, inspiration, and more. Away she goes. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Away She Goes. And today, Carli and I have a very special topic for you, which is eco-travel. Well, eco, it's short for eco-friendly, environmentally friendly travel. Because why do we travel the planet? Because we love it. But we gotta cherish what we love. We have to preserve it so that future generations still want to travel it and not just want to stay where they are because everything else is a wasteland.
And the climate crisis really makes this something kind of necessary that we have to talk about, So a lot of people come to our group on Facebook, anywhere on social media, and really ask these questions of how can I travel, but still do it in a way that's respectful to the locals, respectful to the place that I'm going, respectful to the planet. So we thought that recording this episode would be a good idea just to kind of give everybody a very high level general overview on little things that you can do to help out.
Exactly. And one day there should be coming out a book by us, which is like more of a activity book, kind of, I would call it. A little package where you can learn some more details, more than would fit into this episode.
All right. So before we get into this, just a word of warning, beware of what is called greenwashing. So some companies market their products in a way that makes them appear to be eco-friendly because that's kind of the hip thing right now that everybody's trying to do is, look at us, look how environmentally friendly we are, look at how much we're helping the planet.
Our plastic bottles are 90% recycled. You can't recycle them after this, but up until this point they are.
Like, look at us, we're doing so well. So in truth, they try to come off like they're doing all of these really profound, helpful things, but they're not really changing anything in reality about their products or their production line or their company structure to actually achieve this. So if you're in doubt, make sure to do your own research in the news tab of the search engine specifically. So that'll kind of filter out only news articles from hopefully reputable sources. And you can see then if this company was recently involved in any scandals or anything like that, and it'll help you see if their claims that they're being eco-friendly are legitimate or if it's just BS.
Exactly. Another thing that we need to understand before we dive deeper into ecologically friendly things is understanding CO2 emissions. So CO2, carbon dioxide, is a byproduct. We breathe in air, we breathe out. Part of that is carbon dioxide. It's very natural. It's only harmful when it's produced more than is absorbed naturally by trees and other plants and phytoplankton, for example. Unlike other like greenhouse gases, they're called, which harm the climate, like methane, for example, produced by cows mainly, which is always harmful. CO2 usually not harmful, only in large quantities. And the global tourism industry is responsible for about 8% of all CO2 emissions, which is not too much, but still could be reduced always. That's our motto here. And still, you shouldn't feel bad because big companies like Shell, Coca-Cola, are, and many more, Unilever, we're going to talk about it a bit later again, are doing way worse than you are. They are the major emitters, big oil mainly as well. And so you can switch brands and do little things and don't worry too much. Like, you can't save the planet by being a little hermit crab and never leaving your shell. So still go out there and travel, and we're gonna give you some tips on how to do that more environmentally friendly if that's what you want.
So a main question a lot of you are probably asking now is, okay, well, where can I go then? Where can I go that, what can I do that allows me to do this in a more eco-friendly way? So we actually do have some cities that we can recommend in Europe. These cities were all awarded Europe's Greenest City Award. So good places to start. This is some place where you know that they've been recognized on some level for their attempts and their progress in becoming more eco-friendly. So we have Oslo, Norway, which Sophia is our resident expert in. We have
Yes.
Ljubljana, Slovenia. We have Lisbon, Portugal, and we have Nijmegen, Netherlands. And there's many others as well. Those are the four that, we want to highlight. So starting your trip or ending your trip or having your entire trip be focused around those places. Those cities all have made really great strides in working to become more eco-friendly. Something else you can do is stay close to home. So this cuts down on transportation costs and emissions and that kind of thing. So we've done lots of episodes in the past on staycations, traveling close to home, micro adventures, that type of thing. So if you need a refresher, feel free to go back and listen to some of those old episodes on how to travel close to home. Another thing you can do is to find catfish destinations. So the term catfish referring to usually the dating world where somebody uses fake pictures or really edited pictures or old pictures or whatever, not accurate pictures to attract somebody to their dating profile. We refer to catfish destinations as places that you think are one place, but they're actually another. So you can find destinations closer to home that look and feel like they're far away. And Sophia, I believe in this workbook, there are actually some examples of these, correct?
Yes, there's a fun exercise. There's also one, if you're very curious, in the budget travel book, there's also the same game that I made up with catfish destinations. And maybe we can get some of that onto our Instagram stories as well and play that game again. I know we played it before, but it's always fun. Then, of course, another thing is the transportation. And in the workbook, there's a game to match. So, like, until you do the workbook, hopefully you forgot this. But there's a game to match the mode of transportation and the amount of CO2 that it emits per kilometer traveled per person. Kilometer for all my Americans is 0.6 miles, so like half a mile. So for a cruise ship, for example, it has the highest emissions. It's 401 grams. Yes, a cruise ship includes a hotel emission-wise, but still like 400. It's half a mile. It seems really ridiculous, especially because short distance flights, so let's say like London, Manchester, maybe like New York, Boston, I think is quite a short distance. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Are also quite bad. They have but they're still like 255 grams. That's a bit more than half of what a cruise ship gives off per person per kilometer. And then imagine like cruise ships do travel quite a distance. So then we have like a regular car if just one person is traveling. It's between 170, 190 grams, depending on like what goes into your gas tank thingy. And then there's like long haul flights, which are actually way better than cruise ships. You wouldn't have thought, but that's because for flights, the thing that emits most is start and landing. Takeoff and landing. There we go. That's the words. You can also travel by bus, or an electric car is also very low on emissions. If you own an electric car, if you have to buy one for that, then that's of course a different story. Train also really low. Ferry, if you're a foot passenger, 19 grams. That's like nothing. And if you're really, really passionate, or if you want to have some more adventurous travel, you can also go by bike or by foot, because then there is no direct emissions at all.
All right. So Sophia touched on the cruises and really how problematic cruising can be, how it's one of the worst, if not the worst, contributor to this. So with cruises specifically, we're going to dive in a little bit more. So each day, 3.5 kilograms, which is 7.7 pounds of trash per human on the boat goes overboard. So, and that's out at sea. On land, it's only a quarter of that, but out at sea, 3.5 kilograms.
Yeah, I don't know how we produce so much more trash because we're on a boat than we would produce on land. Like that's insane to me. But then again, all those little containers that you get the marmalade in and stuff. I don't know. I've never been on a
like those little
cruise.
individual ones.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe a
I'm
lot of
sitting
stuff
here.
like that.
I'm trying to think. Like yesterday, I just had a normal day at home, and I'm trying to think. I don't think that I produced 7.5 pounds of trash yesterday. Granted, I'm not out at sea on a cruise, but I don't know. So that being said, you may wonder, how can they do that? It actually is legal for them to dump solid trash overboard off of these
Insane.
boats. So it's not even like they're doing it in the dark of night and getting away with it. They're allowed to do it. Something else, which is just profound to me, is it is also legal to dump feces too off of the boat, although they could keep it on board, but some do dump it off the boat. So in addition to your 3.5 kilograms or 7.5 pounds of trash going overboard, that does not even include the human feces that they are legally allowed to dump overboard into the ocean. There's no permit needed, and organizations that permit this admit how problematic it is and that it's a health risk. So they're kind of just like, yeah, this sucks, but we do it anyway. So
Lovely.
yeah, isn't that great? Just something to consider, that that I ugh, that
Yeah.
they're not only allowed to dump trash, they're allowed to dump human feces into the water.
Yeah, it's really disgusting. It makes you think like, should I go swimming in the
I was
ocean?
just thinking that makes me like not want to swim
Then
in
again,
the
it's a big
ocean.
ocean. Although I was in the fjord yesterday here, because I'm currently in Norway, and it's the Hardanger fjord. It's very popular. This is not the part where the cruise ships are, but it's a few kilometers down. That's the part where the cruise ships also are in the fjord. And yeah, I don't think I'll be doing any swimming or paddleboarding
Oh
or anything up there.
no, it makes you definitely reconsider. It definitely makes you reconsider all of that.
Yeah. So another alternative would be also to do slow travel, which means you go to one destination and stay there for longer. So let's say that's why I've never been to the US or Australia, because when I go
Mm-hmm.
there, I want to spend a lot of time there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to go for a 2 week holiday and then only see a little bit. I want to make those long distance flights worth it, especially because they're also
Mm-hmm.
expensive. Um,
Yes. Yes, they are.
but yeah, slow travel, like see a lot more of a region or travel around within a country, get your money worth for those long haul flight tickets.
Yep. And I've been, since we've started recording and since Sophia and I met virtually, we've not met in person yet, but we both talk all the time. Oh, when you come to the US, I'll show you this, this, and this. And she says, oh, when you come to Germany, I'll show you this, this, and this. So one of these days, the pictures of Sophia and I together, like on our cover photos and stuff like that, we are going to retake them, and we're going to retake them in person.
Yes. Also, I don't
All
have
right.
a Photoshop license anymore, so we have to take them in person.
So we have to meet up next time. We have to do a photo shoot then. That's just how it, that's
Although I
just how
think
it
I
happens.
used Canva for them.
All right. So an alternative forms of transportation other than planes, cruises, that kind of thing. Backpacking on foot. This is a really popular one, especially through places like South America, Europe, Southeast Asia. A really eco-friendly way to travel, probably one of the most eco-friendly ways that there is. That depends on where you go and how you get there, of course, but it's not technically considered carbon neutral because of your gear, but it's way less problematic than taking a cruise, being on a long haul flight, driving everywhere. It really, if you're going to travel, it's probably the least
Yeah.
harmful in terms of carbon emissions way that you
And
can
you
do
can't
it.
just hike naked. You can't.
I mean, you could.
You shouldn't. You also need the
You shouldn't.
backpack where you're just gonna carry your stuff in your arms.
You could. Okay. You could hike naked. Should you hike naked? Probably not. It's like that show Naked and Afraid, where they're all out in
Yeah,
the
no.
horrible parts of Earth for 21 days. Bike packing as well. Same as backpacking on foot, except you have a bicycle. Our friend Annie spoke about bike packing with us when she was on, well,
Yeah.
it was a while ago now.
Yeah, she also wrote part of
Big,
this chapter on bikepacking in the book.
oh, even better. So something that you can do with your gear is invest in quality gear that will last you longer. So you're using it longer, you're getting more out of it, it's higher quality, then you don't have that turnover of having to buy new stuff over and over again. Or you could even go with rental or secondhand gear or borrow from a friend to cut down on that even further. This obviously is slightly faster than backpacking on foot because you have a bicycle.
Yeah, then there's also backpacking, but you take trains and buses. And yeah, trains kind of have a bad reputation with delays in some countries, but it is also more relaxed and you get to see way more of the landscape because on most planes you have a little bit of like during flight. I can never get those right. During takeoff and landing, you can usually see a bit of the landscape, but then otherwise you're usually above the clouds somewhere and you can't really see much. But with the train, you can see all the landscape, how it changes. And you're slightly slower than a plane, of course, but well, maybe not. You're significantly slower than a long distance plane, of course. And it's also all about the experience. So you get to meet new people, you get to talking with strangers, stuff like that. It's more of a story than, well, I was at the airport and it was clean and security was annoying. That's not much of a story, is it?
Well, and I have I guess not an interesting frame of reference, but I'm from the United States. Our public transportation, for the most part, sucks. It's okay in some of the bigger cities, but between cities, it's almost non-existent. And we have a bus system and we have a train system more on the East Coast of the United States, and the trains are always delayed. They are not clean. They're not nice. So it's possible and it exists, but it sucks. And then last month when I was in Portugal, I took a train in Europe for the first time. Oh my God, it was clean. I had more room than I did on an airplane. It was delayed by, I think, like 10 minutes or something like that. And I remember our tour guide saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." And I'm like, "Ma'am, if I was in America, this train wouldn't get here until 4 hours from now. Like 10 minutes." So to me, that's on time. To me, 10 minutes late is on time because I'm used to, 4 hours. So in a place like Europe that has such a really good and well put together like train system, I would totally do something like this. Even, a Flixbus. I took a Flixbus from Porto to Lisbon. That too. It was on time. It was clean. It was cheap. And my mom and I were sitting there and I'm like, why can't we do this? Like, this shouldn't be this complicated. It's
No.
like, why can't we have public transportation like this? So as somebody who has done both, I can definitely speak to public transportation elsewhere versus the United States.
Yeah, maybe this grants a whole different episode about how to get started, good places to do it, and so on and so forth.
Absolutely. So another way to bike pack is by ferry. So ferries are large. They're not as large as cruise ships, but they do emit a fair amount of carbon dioxide. However, if you compare this mode of transportation to the emissions of short haul flights, the result is that the ferry is still greener. And obviously, then, of course, the argument is there's a lot of you on the ferry. It's kind of like public transportation in that sense, where it's a lot of you using the one thing at once. And it is obviously, like we said, shorter, fewer emissions than a short haul flight.
Yeah. And then there's also sailing if you're going by boat. And we have a whole episode about that with Jenny, who also helped us write this chapter. And it's about a year old. So that's where you'll find it. A little bit of a scroll.
Companies now are starting, I guess, this program, I guess is what I would call it, of carbon dioxide, CO2 compensation. So this is something that's set up where you can pay a certain amount of money to compensate for the emissions that you're using. And I've noticed in recent years, I usually use Google Flights to research my flights at least. And Google Flights a lot of the times will tell you what the CO2 emissions are of the flights that you're looking at. And it will tell you if it's higher than average, if it's kind of right on average, if it's lower than average. So it'll kind of tell you and get you an idea of how that flight compares to others, if it's more or less environmentally friendly than others. So companies that do this, or projects that do this, you can support projects that save carbon dioxide by planting trees, building more efficient ovens, appliances, etc. Often airlines offer low prices, too low of prices though when you're doing this because their calculations are not complete just to make it cheaper, because if they made it too expensive, nobody would do it. But instead, go through, kind of like we said before, don't necessarily trust what companies tell you. Companies can tell you all they want. Look at us. We're doing such a good job. We're going to pat ourselves on the back. And then they dump human shit into the ocean. So go through proper services, do your research, check their projects. If the projects are listed, then obviously it's considered a little more trustworthy, but don't ever always take the company's word. Always do your own research, because clearly sometimes they are not to be trusted.
Yeah. In the workbook, there's also some companies included, although most of them are more European companies. You can just look up CO2 compensation and then take a look if there's any that are more local to you, or any that, are in your hemisphere or wherever. As far as accommodation goes, there are some certifications, and there's even special websites to look up your accommodation. Since it's annoying to spell out websites for you now, that's just something that has to either be in the show notes, or you'll have to wait till the workbook comes out. But there's still a few things you can do to make your hotel stay greener when you're going to a regular hotel, because hotels, as far as environmentally friendliness goes, are a bit on the lower end. So a hostel would be a bit more environmentally friendly because you have less space and more beds. Also in hostels, you don't get your sheets changed every day. There you go. Oh, that's a tongue twister. Because that's one thing you can do to make your hotel stay greener. You behave like you're at home. You ask them to only change the sheets like once a week, like you do at home. I mean, if you're very neat and you do it like daily or bi-daily or whatever, of course, do it at the hotel too, whatever. And you can also use the do not disturb sign, so that they don't unnecessarily often clean your room and change your towels and sheets. Also, I feel like this goes without saying, but turn off the air conditioning, heating, lights, TV, other electronics, whatever, when you're not in the room. And some hotels even, so that this goes without saying, in some hotels, because they now do make you put the chip card that you use as a key into a little thingy. I don't know what to call it. And only if that card is in there, you can use the electronics and the aircon and the TV and whatever, which is quite smart. And also, again, behave like at home. And for example, I just have to say this because, yes, I'm at a campsite, and yesterday morning, when I went to the bathroom, there was this woman next to me, and she let the tap run while brushing her teeth. And I always heard in school and stuff like, oh yeah, you turn off the tap while you brush your teeth. I'm like, yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you let it run? And I saw this for the first time, and I was like, too stunned to speak. I didn't know, like...
The woman was too stunned to speak.
Yes, I didn't know how to politely tell her, what the fuck are you doing? Just because you're not paying for the water doesn't mean you should waste it.
Oh, God. Yeah, I've also seen people do that. All right. So let's talk about food. Food obviously is a big part of travel. And if you're eating all that food, you have to brush your teeth and run the tap. So some companies to avoid, these people will all never sponsor us now, and that's okay. Coca-Cola, who owns Coca-Cola isn't just the Coca-Cola drink. Coca-Cola owns a profound amount of snacks and stuff that you eat and you may not realize it. Nestle, same thing. Nestle is not just a candy bar. Nestle owns crackers and chips and all that kind of thing. And then Monsanto as well. So why are we avoiding these people? Let me tell you. Well, they may or may not be dumping feces into the water, which I still can't get past. I'm hung up on that now. They all use limited water supplies. They use child labor in developing countries. And they, of course, are not the only companies who do this. They use animal testing. and they use labor exploitation of adult workers. So the workers that they have that are of age and that are not children are still being exploited. They're being severely underpaid, that kind of thing. And these companies are responsible for a lot of plastic waste as well.
And that's only a fraction
Mm-hmm.
of, like, the list also goes on, and there's more
Oh,
in the
we could go
workbook
on.
too, but we have to keep it short. Good for them. So what else you can do is eat local. So if you go to small restaurants, you help the local economy. They're probably gonna have local ingredients, stuff like that. Um, sorry, dropped my mic. Shit.
Did you drop your mic?
Yes, I touched the pot.
Mic drop.
And then dropped the mic. Whoopsie.
Mic drop. Leave that in the episode, please. Please, please, please.
Okay, fine.
Alistair would want you to.
He does. That's fine. Yeah. I'll do it for Alistair.
Okay, do it for Alistair.
You can also eat vegetarian or vegan because animal agriculture is responsible for 18% of all the greenhouse gas emissions, which includes methane, like I said before, a big problem, cow farts. Sounds ridiculous when you say it, and aliens would be like, how is that the problem? How is cow farts the problem? But yeah, cow farts is the problem. And you don't have to do it perfectly. You don't have to do it full time. You can do it part time, a day a week, or whenever you're visiting a new city, you can look up the highest rated vegan restaurant. There's this website called Happy Cow because vegans want cows to be happy, apparently. I can say that weird stuff. I'm a vegan. Before you come after me, fellow vegans. Yeah. And it's usually a small local restaurant, which again goes to the eat local. And unless you're doing it like you would used to, you know, those like 2000-ish diets where it's like, oh, you don't eat, like, you do fasting and then you eat like 5 times the amount when you're off fast.
Yep.
Unless you do that with like meat and like only eat steak and no greens on the other days that you're not eating veggie or vegan.
Right.
You're fine.
Yeah, don't do that and then eat 4 steaks the next day.
Just your regular amount of steaks, okay?
Just the regular amount.
Because I also have a sad fact for you, but I also have a good fact. So let's start with the sad one, which is animal agriculture is responsible for about 90% of rainforest deforestation. Which, again, rainforest is a really old forest and old trees, and which is very good for changing CO2 into oxygen again. But also a good fact, which is you can enjoy avocados and soy as much as you want because they're not as bad for the environment as they're made out to be. Because soy, it's always like, oh, but what about all the soy that like is being built where they burn down the rainforest? Like, yeah, but that's like most of the soy is for animal agriculture to feed the cows. And also avocados only use 1/8 of the water that you would need for a steak. So don't let anyone shame you out of that avocado or soy burger or whatever. And also it's a good time to be vegan because the industry grew a lot. Like I'm talking 40% in 3 years. And that's between 2016 and 2019. I didn't get any newer numbers. So there's a variety of products and they don't taste like cardboard anymore. I mean, some still do, but they should really put that on the packaging.
As somebody who is not a vegan, I can confirm this. My brother went through a period of time many years ago now, around 2015, 16, around there. He was a vegan for several years, and I am not, never have been, but here where I live, there is a completely vegan restaurant, and I'm not in a huge city. So the fact that there is one is nice. Obviously, in a bigger city like New York, you would have dozens upon dozens, but there is a restaurant here in the city that I live in that is completely vegan. And I've gone with my brother several times. They have the best milkshakes I've ever had, period. I still think about them. And another Girls Who Travel team member, Lexi, she lives near where I do. She teaches in Valencia, Spain, but when she's home, lives near where I do. And she's a vegetarian. So she and I are already planning this summer that she and I are going to go to this restaurant and have our all vegan meals, even though she's a vegetarian. I'm not either, but I like that restaurant so much that I still go back because the food is just that good.
And
So
that's
give it a
exactly the
chance.
kind of places you should visit when you're going somewhere.
The best milkshake I've ever had. I say that like I genuinely mean it. The best milkshake I've ever had. So let's transition into activities. What are some actual things that you can do on your travels to help be more eco-friendly? So take nothing but trash. Don't take sand. Don't take dried up starfish or all of these other things that people try to take. Knock yourself out with collecting things like sea glass, bottle caps, fishing lines, things like that that really can be problematic. It's okay to take those things away because those things don't belong there. As we've said before, explore on foot or by bike. All modes of human powered travel are great. They're generally much cheaper and much more eco-friendly than the other options, the other alternatives. And make sure when you're out in nature, if you're hiking, if you're bike packing, backpacking, on a walk, whatever it is, that you stick to the paths. The paths are there for a reason. Leaving them can harm the local plants, disturb the wildlife, and it's generally just safer to stay on the path.
So now the last thing, which is souvenirs. We all love them, we all hate them, depending on if we bought too much or if we brought the stuff and then at home realize why on earth did I buy this? So what you shouldn't buy is animal products, especially from wild animals. And nothing ivory, turtle shell, seashells, starfish, like Carli just said, reptile skin, shark teeth, corals, whatever, because it disrupts the ecosystem. And fun fact, shark teeth, when they're white, they're literally from a dead shark's mouth. And as a kid, I own a shark tooth necklace because I didn't realize that they were from actual sharks, because in my little kid brain, I could not comprehend how you would even get such a thing, because the sharks, they live like under the water and they live so far away. And how would I even get a tooth from that? Like in my brain, it wasn't a real tooth. Yeah, that was a shocking realization I had later in life. And also, fun fact, if they're black, means they're fossil / they were found on the beach. So those are safer while not still disrupting the ecosystem a little bit. Also, living plants. One, you don't want to take them from nature, but also you might not want to buy them somewhere unless it's like close to home, because non-native species can also cause a problem in your local ecosystem at home. What you should buy, on the other hand, is souvenirs from nonprofit organizations, other local organizations, and also very much local artists, because it's better for the environment than the generic stuff that is made in China. I mean, unless you are in China, then that's of course local. But
then you're buying local.
You know, I mean, those T-shirts, you're in London and you're like, oh, that's an I Love London shirt, and it's cool, but it's made in China. So
made in China. Yep.
Like, might want to get something else from a local artist or something, because usually that should be more eco-friendly.
All right. I think that pretty much covers it. So, Sophia, what do you think?
That's all we got.
So obviously we said this at the beginning. This is a very high level overview. I was going to say the metaphor of, the cruising altitude, the 35,000 foot, but I'm like, I don't want to reference a plane if we're talking about eco-friendly, so I'm not going to do that. But this is a very high level overview. Obviously,
it's just the tip of the iceberg that sinks the cruise ship.
The tip of the melting iceberg.
Oh no.
Oh dear. Sophia did write an entire workbook on this with help from our friend Annie and Jenny and a few other collaborators as well. So that workbook is still pending release date. As soon as it has a solidified release date, we will happily let people know. But for now, we wanted to give you a little snippet of what you can expect there. And in that workbook, again, there's much more detailed information, a deeper dive into a lot of the things that we touched on today. That's all for this episode. If you'd like more Away She Goes in your life, make sure to stop by girlswhotravel.org/podcast. That's where you can fill out a form if you're interested in being a guest on the show. You can also write to us at awayshegosgwt@gmail.com or leave us a message on our Google voicemail from any phone or computer at 1-563-503-6323.
To follow our adventures, you can follow me on Instagram. I'm at Carli Sees the World. Carli is spelled Carli.
You can also follow me at Sophia AEZ, Sophia with a PH. Away She Goes is part of Girls Who Travel, a community dedicated to radically redefining travel to be inclusive, sustainable, and empowering. You can learn more about GWT, find travel tips and support, shop travel-themed items made by GWT members, and join our Facebook group with nearly 100,000 women all around the world at girlswhotravel.org. We can't wait to connect and explore with you.
Away she goes.